Hello, everybody. This is Jeff Page with Cruise Planners. I'm here to do a J Page Travel Talk, and I'm here with Jennifer Collins, the Talk National Accounts Manager, and she is going to talk to us all about North America today and tell us what's available. I think my feeling is most of our travel is going to be local or close to local. We're not going to see a lot of long distance flights and when travel opens back up. So I think this would be some great options to consider as travel starts to open. Welcome, Jennifer, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks to everybody that's watching this. I'm really happy to be here and excited to talk to you about the great ways that we have to show you North America. So I'm going to start out with telling you about the features and benefits of traveling with Tauck, and then after that, talk about some of our itineraries. So we're a global company, and we feel that travel should not only be inspirational, but it has the opportunity to be life-changing. So we're always looking for the best possible way to show you any destination. So when we put together an itinerary, the criteria for choosing a hotel is always centrally located, best quality in the location. Location, location, location is the most important thing with us. Here's some examples. The Perry Lane in Savannah. Bottom left is the Wayside Inn in Chatham. I've been there many times on the Cape Cod tour. I used to be a tour director with us, right downtown, so you can walk to anything. Or the Chateau Frontenac. We have a long history with the Fairmont properties throughout the globe. Our tour directors are all trained, they're knowledgeable, they're truly going to teach you about the destination. They're not going to sell you anything. They do 2 complete training tours on every new itinerary that they learn. And I mentioned I was a tour director, so I can tell you firsthand that every new trip I shadowed somebody who had been running that trip for a very long time. And I learned about the culture and about the history and where the motor coach should park and where to buy tickets and all those little things. So I did a lot of different itineraries, but first started out with the 2 training tours. But not only that, Tauck would assign me the same destination for a good portion of the season. So the Cape Cod tour, for example, I would usually do about 6 rotations of those. I'd start on a Sunday, end on a Sunday. The next day I'd be picking up another trip, or finish on a Saturday night and then start again on Sunday morning. So I do it again and again and again. And I felt like I knew every bump in the road, from Chatham to Provincetown. It was easy for me to offer my guests really good information.
Yeah, I lived in Boston for several years. Sorry to interrupt, but I lived in Boston for several years, and I was amazed at the diversity of the land there and how much there's to see and the history that's available up in that area of the country. So, really, something that's in our backyard that a lot of people don't think of as a destination.
I'm partial to that area too, Jeff, because I grew up there. And it was just funny that that's one of the first tours that I got assigned when I started working with Tauck. But yeah, I kind of spent my summers on Cape Cod when I was a kid. And to me, it was secondhand, but to see it through a guest's eyes, those quaint little seaside villages, Newport, Chatham, eating lobster as much as you can. I used to take my guests back to Logan at the end of the trip, and they'd be holding their stomachs. I have way too much lobster, you know, because they could. We offer lots of choices at dinner time. Our guests aren't pigeonholed into, sitting in a restaurant at the same time every evening. Everybody joins them. They can have dinner when they'd like to, order what they'd like to eat. So especially on a tour like that, or our Nova Scotia tour, if people are big seafood lovers, those are really, if you like oysters and you like scallops and you like lobster, that's part of the reason why people travel with us too, is because the food is so good, and they can order what they'd like to. They're not getting the rubber chicken every night. So when our guests travel with us, we want to take care of all the little details. So what kind of details? Like transfers from the beginning of the tour to the end of the tour. You can fly there no matter how you choose. You don't have to book the air through us, but we'll pick you up at the airport. We'll take you back to the airport. So to make it nice and easy, you don't have to touch your luggage during the tour. Say we're leaving one hotel and we're going to make our way through the day to the next hotel. Just leave it inside the room. When you go down to breakfast, they'll come in and pick it up, and you'll magically see it at the next hotel. Makes it very nice and easy. We include internet access no matter where we go. So that's nice and easy too, because we know that everybody wants to stay connected these days. And we don't sell you anything on the trip. So our tour directors are really acting as guides and concierge, and they're not selling you a thing. We include all the sightseeing. So basically, you pay for it and you're done. You call Jeff, you give him your credit card, and you're done. I say take the Band-Aid off quickly, you're done. If you compare us with other tour companies, yes, they have, optional this and optional that. We don't. We include the sightseeing in all of our trips. So it's nice because you know exactly how much it's going to cost before you leave.
Yeah, that's a great benefit.
Yeah. And then there's not only the quality of the hotels, the location of the hotels, the fact that the guides aren't selling you anything, but we also have extraordinary experiences. So here's a few examples. We include the float plane ride on our Grand Alaska trip. Bottom left is a picture that I took when I was guiding a group at the Breakers in Newport. This is what we call a summer cottage in Newport. But it just reminded me of every Tuesday morning, I'd leave the hotel at 8:30 in the morning. We'd do a nice leisurely stroll on the cliff walk, and then we'd come up to the house just before they opened. And the security guard would talk into his walkie-talkie, "Tauck's here." And then we'd walk up to the house, and we'd have not one but two docents come out. So we'd have nice small groups go through the home. And it seemed like every single week when they came out and they saw a long line of people, down the road and around the corner, they thought, wow, we were so lucky. We got to go there, and we didn't have to wait in line. So we like to take you in the best possible way so you don't have to wait in line, so you can maximize your time on your trip. Top right is a picture of, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Ken Burns, the historian, the documentarian, but we go to visit his private studio in Walpole, New Hampshire on our Hidden Gems itinerary. And I'll talk a little bit more about him and his influence on our trips in a few minutes. If you come with us to New Orleans, we're not only going to stay at the Ritz, but we're going to take you to Preservation Hall and have a private performance. There's no waiting in line if you come with us. They don't do that with anybody else. So we have a lot of exclusive partnerships that are really great that we've cultivated over the years. We're a family company. We've been in business for this year 95 years.
Congratulations.
And thank you. We've weathered World War II and the Great Depression and the 9/11 and the downturn in 08 and Ebola and SARS. And, we're a long-standing family company with deep traditions, always aiming to provide the best available quality and value. And you might take a look at the brochure and say, wow, this is more expensive than the other one. How is there value in that? Well, we'll talk about that more in a minute, but staying centrally located. So when you have free time, you can walk outside and go to where you'd like to go, or choosing what you'd like to off a menu instead of having something that you don't ordinarily choose, and not having to pay extra and having all the little things included. The only thing that's not included on a land tour is your air to get there and a gratuity to the tour director and driver, and that's it. Basically everything else is included, so it's nice and easy.
Yeah, as somebody that sells travel and has lots of options at my fingertips, I don't hear very many people staying at the Ritz unless it's an upsell.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We stay there because first of all, we have the best quality, the best location, and the best quality. And you walk outside the back of the Ritz in New Orleans, you're right in on Bourbon Street. In 95 years, we've never advertised. So think about that. How can you stay in business without advertising? Well, because we feel if we provide the right experience, then your clients will come home. You'll come home and you'll say, wow, that was such a good trip. I want to do something again, somewhere else. And that's exactly what they do. Today, we have over 140 different itineraries around the globe. So that's exactly what we do. And if you came up to our office in Connecticut, you'd see the word TAUCK spelled out like an acronym. T is trust and A is always do the right thing. So our guests are our most important asset. So we have these 5 brands these days. Today we're going to talk about our World Discovery brand, which incorporates all of our land programs. We'll talk a little bit about Bridges family and just a little bit about small ship. So in North America, we have 36 different itineraries. Actually, we have a few more than those. And I put that, I intentionally left that there, 650 departures. That's not happening this year, obviously. However, I put that there because I wanted you to know that we do the same thing over and over and over. I really feel like the secret sauce is the consistency. The people in the restaurants know us. The people in the hotels know us. You know, when, like I said, the guard at the breakers, when I would go and buy the tickets for the whale watch in Provincetown, you know, the people in the restaurants in Chatham Wayside Inn, they would know exactly about what time our guests were coming. They'd save like from 7 to 8:30. They'd save reservations, you know, all of these things that make it really easy for you to travel and have the experience that you wish to. So we'll talk about some itineraries now. We have these great partnerships like Canadian Mountain Holidays. We first started going heli hiking in the 1970s. I'll talk about that in a minute. Partnership with Ken Burns, partnerships with the Fairmont Hotels, the Ritz brand. I mean, partnerships all over the globe. Now, Tauck is a company that's steeped in history. So we have tour operator license 001. We have the first tour operator license in the US. And there's so many historical moments through the 95 years. But one is Arthur Tauck Sr. saw that there was an opportunity, you know, it was either an opportunity or a threat when the airlines started coming into business. And they said, well, I'm going to make it an opportunity. So he petitioned to get a license to charter a plane and fill up and take people along the East Coast to go out to the West. And, you know, first he got so much negative criticism, but then it went all the way to the Supreme Court and he won. So we had the first chartered flight. First chartered flight was actually to Nova Scotia. Then we got to go to the West. The parks in the West were predominantly filled by passengers on rail because that's how people traveled in those days, you know, before the 1950s. And then we got a landmark decision made as well to be able to fly and use those hotels, same hotels in the national parks. So we've been traveling to the national parks since the 1950s. But alongside that standing relationship, we have a volunteer program. Many of our itineraries in the national parks have free time. And in that free time, you can choose to volunteer and paint signs or rake leaves, or there's always a project going on. And I think it was 2006, we were awarded a very prestigious award by the White House for the volunteer program in the national parks. So why would they travel with us? Because look at this. You could stay at Old Faithful Inn and you are right here. When you get up in the morning, you can watch the sunrise and watch Old Faithful. When you go to bed at night under the stars, you're right here listening to the sounds. You are right here. Now we feel there's a lot of value in that. There are not 5-star hotels in the national parks, and we could easily stay at the Four Seasons, which is probably an hour away. But then again, how long are you going to spend in the park? You know, you go there for one thing and you want to see it, and you see it and live it when you're with us. Jackson Lake Lodge, same thing. Most of the hotels that we stay in are on the National Historic Register. And just to sit here, having your breakfast or your dinner, looking at this view, again, in the morning, watching the sunrise, going out for a hike if you'd like to, a stroll if you'd like to, having your coffee, just looking at this beauty, it's unparalleled. One of our most popular national park itineraries is called Spirit of the Desert. And the filmmaker Ken Burns and his partner Dayton Duncan, when they made the 6-part series, America's National Parks, they took a decade to make that series. They were in the parks different seasons, different times of the year, different lights of the day, and they met so many incredible people, discovered so many routes, all kinds of things. And that's what Ken brings to us. He introduces us to these people and these ways to go and see these things. And it just has really electrified what we're able to do. So this particular itinerary, we start out in Grand Junction, Colorado, and we go visit the arches. We don't just go to see the arches like a bus tour would. We go before sunrise, and we watch the light over the arches change from dark to pink to golden to ochre and it's incredible. And then we bring a picnic breakfast out to our guests, and it's an experience that they wouldn't think of having on their own. And it's such a shared experience that everybody loves it. We also stay on the north rim of the Grand Canyon on this trip. Why would we stay on the north rim? Do you know, Jeff?
No, I don't.
It's I probably wouldn't either if I didn't study it, but there's only about 10% of the visitors that go to the Grand Canyon stay on the north rim. So this is why we stay there, because you can get a seat in one of these chairs almost any hour of the day, and the entire area, it's Grand Canyon all around you. So you're not taking pictures of people, you're taking pictures of the incredible scenery. You have this show right here. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit there and be mesmerized by it. Ken Burns also said the best way to see Capitol Reef National Park is to get the best perspective. You have to fly over it. So we do. We charter small planes and we fly over it. He said also the Grand Canyon, you can see it, but you can't imagine it until you fly over it. So we charter planes and we fly over the Grand Canyon as well. So this is a very popular itinerary as well. Last year, I had the opportunity to go out and do a volunteer program in Grand Teton. We have 4 different itineraries in Grand Teton. These are just a couple of my pictures, but it's so spectacular, the scenery, and pictures are great. And I think my pictures are pretty good, but you know what? There's nothing like being there. It's just something else. Smelling that clean air, seeing the bison and the elk, just seeing the wildlife up close even. So we have lots of different ways to travel. We have a trip that's a classic itinerary where we have a float trip, and we have so many other great, the scenery really does speak for itself. Or we have more active itineraries where we go hiking and biking, lots of hiking actually, going out on a trail on a horseback riding, all kinds of different activities. If you're looking for a trip and you're wondering about the activity level, we have on each page or each new page in our brochure, it will say activity level and pace. And that will help guide you as to how active that trip is, or the pace. How many nights do we stay in the same hotel before we move on? That will help. Our Canyonland trip is probably our #1 North American itinerary that starts in Phoenix and ends in Las Vegas. And again, that's one of those trips where, right where you are right now, Jeff, we go out on a private yacht. We started out with champagne and a private yacht on Lake Powell, and everybody loves it. We do flight seeing over Rainbow Bridge. We do a raft trip. We do all kinds of great things. We don't just drive by and look. Plus, we're there in the morning. We're there at night because we're staying in the parks. We also have a program that's geared towards families. It's called Bridges. It's all about bridging 3 generations. And we have a great Bridges trip that goes out here too, and the kids absolutely love it. What a great way to introduce kids, to the beauty in this country. In California, we have several different itineraries. This one was built with Ken Burns in mind for sure, and the Buffalo Soldiers of Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir. So you're going to hear stories about them while seeing this great scenery, Yosemite, going to Sequoia and the Redwoods. And again, stunning scenery. We also have a family program out to California. One of the things that we do on this trip is we go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is an amazing aquarium. I went. We go after hours, and we have our farewell dinner inside. We go kayaking on Monterey Bay. We do all kinds of great things that really engage the whole family to go sightseeing together. Canadian Rockies, if anybody has heard of it, maybe hasn't been, you're wondering what the allure is. It's just stunning scenery. And oh my God, the wildlife here is just something else too. And the water actually is that color. I've got some of my pictures in here that you'll see. So again, we stay in the parks. This is Banff Springs Hotel in Banff Springs National Park. And it's like a castle. This is a Fairmont property. We have a long-standing relationship with Fairmont. The Fairmont hotels were built by the company CP, Canadian Pacific. Canadian Pacific was the company that built the Trans-Canada Railway. And at that time, when people traveled by rail, those were people of means. So they wanted to stay in a nice, luxurious place. So the hotels were built within walking distance from the train station. And then Fairmont took these over, I'm going to say maybe close to 2 decades ago, most of these hotels. And they are stately. They're just, you know, you can't compare much to a Fairmont. Fairmont has a saying, TCF, when they see the Tauck tour director come, Tauck comes first. We like that. They treat us well. They treat us well. We're a big part of their business. We're their biggest partner.
Yeah, I grew up in the hotel world, and there were some people that just got different service. That's just, you know, the way it was. The ones you knew and liked, and I grew up in a 5-star world. That's what I did for most of my career.
Interesting. Interesting. So we have several Canadian Rockies itineraries. This one includes Gold Leaf service for 2 days with Rocky Mountaineer from Vancouver to Jasper. And again, we stay at the Fairmont hotels. And it's just one of those, you know, it's a great trip. Private dome car on the train. Yeah, if you want to see the beauty and experience it as you could, you know, this is a nice way to do it. The Chateau Lake Louise, also in Banff Springs National Park. This is the lake itself. It's incredible. And these are pictures that I took when I went. It's just, you know, so picturesque everywhere you turn around. Yeah, and yes, the water is that color.
That's awesome.
It's pretty neat. So in 1978, Arthur Tauck Jr. Met Hans Mosher, who was the guy that built this lodge called the Bugaboos. And he used it for heli skiing in the wintertime, where people would stay in it in the wintertime and they would ski. He said, well, you know, the hotels in the summertime get so crowded and everything. He said, why don't we do this in the summertime? He said, nobody will come. Nobody will ever come. Well, we started heli skiing in the 70s and we're still going strong. What this is we do Chateau Lake Louise, we stay at Banff Springs Hotel, and then we get everybody together and we say, how many people really love to hike and want a lot of exercise? You know, maybe 1 or 2 of our guests will go in that group. How many people want to get some exercise? Not necessarily a lot. A few more will go in that group. How many just want to kind of relax and smell the wildflowers, take pictures? More people in that group. And how many people really just want to take it all in? So a few people in that group. And what this does is we're going to divide people according to their level of choice of how active they choose to be. And we'll put them at different parts of a mountain. And they're all going to congregate when we fly the lunch into them. And this is where they're going to stay. It's very comfortable. It has a hot tub that overlooks the glaciers. And you can do as much or as little hiking as you choose. You can change groups, but you're going to be flown from mountain to mountain in a helicopter and see scenery that you're not going to be able to see, touch, and feel without anybody around anywhere else in the world. So many people have come back from this feeling like it was a near godlike experience, kind of changed, transformed, because they were right there in the elements. And again, it was like they were the only ones there. They love this. And for the Tauck family, you know, we go all around the globe. This is their favorite destination. I think they go up there every summer.
Mm.
Also in Canada, we have a lot of trips in Canada. We have our Canadian Capitals trip, which I happen to love. It's Montreal, Quebec, Ottawa, which is a hidden gem, the Thousand Islands, Niagara Falls, and Toronto. And we stay in all Fairmont hotels. You know, if you don't know Canada, it's a great way to stay in Canada. We have Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. We have the Maritimes. We have a private dinner at the Citadel. which is nice. You know, it's not something that everybody gets to do. And it's just a great way to explore and be introduced to this pretty remote part of Canada. Um, and it's just picturesque coves, and Prince Edward Island is salt marshes, kind of like Cape Cod, and dunes and beaches. And, you know, actually the water up there is even warmer than on the Cape. Did you know that, Jeff?
No, I didn't. It definitely looks very similar, but no.
Yeah, it does. And it's warm because the Gulf Stream goes up there.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just picturesque. You probably heard of Anne of Green Gables, and you can think of
Hmm.
that if you're traveling around. So we also have a couple cruise itineraries that I put in here. We have one with Princess, where we do a whole week on land. We stay at the Princess Lodges, and then we do a week on a Princess ship. And again, everything's included. We have our own tour directors, so we just have a group on board. We have a couple nights in the specialty restaurants. We include the drinks, and of course, all the excursions are Tauck excursions. What does that mean? That means we our operations department has built these excursions. Going to look for bald eagles on the Chillicothe River, flight seeing in Denali, all of those things. So basically, you've booked it and you've paid for it, and all the gratuities, everything's included. You pay for it ahead of time. You don't have to sign up for anything. It's all included. You have a nice small group. There's a private whale watching. There's all these great experiences that you get to have, and your excursion's not going to be sold out. You don't have to look for anything. You don't have to pay extra for anything. It's all taken care of for you. If you ever thought about going to Hawaii, this is a really great way to go. Way back when, there used to be a few cruise ships that cruised the Hawaiian Islands before the company that's there now. Whoops, why am I moving so fast? Let's see here. Um, I worked on a cruise ship that sailed in the Hawaiian Islands. And I realized after I left there and I started working for Tauck, the big difference between going on a cruise and going on a land tour. Because we spend 3 nights in most places, and we're eating off the menu every day. You know, I get to choose whatever I'd like to eat, the scallops with a pineapple infused sauce. And you know, it's not the cookie cutter food that I'm going to have on a cruise ship, and it's not the same menu that they might have served in the Caribbean 2 months before. And I can go for a walk at night if I'd like to. I can sit on the beach and look at the stars. I have the opportunity to have more time. I'm talking to the local people every single day. The people are serving my food, you know, cleaning my room, all of those. You have interactive conversations. Having more time in each place, for me, cements that vacation, allows me to say, yeah, I've been there. When I worked on cruise ships, even though I went to Maui, I only had a couple hours off, and I did the same thing all the time. So what I'm saying is, if you want more time, if you want to learn truly about a destination, this is a good way to do it. So our hotels are all ocean view hotels, really great. The Fairmont, the Pink Palace, right in Waikiki, overlooking Diamond Head. Of course, we go to the Volcanoes National Park. We go on an outrigger in Waikiki. We have a private catamaran sunset sail, a private tour of the Alani Palace after hours with dinner. We have a private luau. So all of these things. Well-known Maui chef that does an interactive cooking experience. So you have all of these opportunities to really immerse yourself in the culture, because it is different than the lower 48, and I think you'll enjoy it. If you wanted to go up to see Seattle, Vancouver, Victoria, we've got a great Pacific Northwest trip. We go to Pike's Market. We connect with local guides, go in small groups. We eat our way through Pike's Market. When we go to Bouchard Gardens on Victoria, we fly. We go in small planes, small float planes. We fly back to Vancouver. So you have that experience. We stay at the Empress Hotel, that's known for its quality and its high tea, and it's just very British in feel, and as is Canada. So you get to feel that. If you're interested in something very different, Louisville to Nashville, going to the Biltmore, having a private tour of the private quarters, and having a country music performance at the Country Western Hall of Fame. having all kinds of, having a celebrity chef come out and do a cooking demonstration, having dinner with them, and then going to a performance either at the Rhineman or the Grand Ole Opry. So you have the beauty of the Shenandoah Valley and the mountains and all of that, the history of the area, and how really country music is the history of America. And if you are not too familiar with the filmmaker Ken Burns, a lot of these itineraries are based on his documentaries. The country music documentary came out just last September. So if you saw any of that, then you probably know, how immersive it is when you're there in person. And he introduced us to a lot of great people to enhance our itineraries. Small ship cruise itinerary, a ship that holds a max of 184 guests with 2 nights in Toronto, 2 nights in Chicago before and after the cruise. Or if you wanted to do more history, the Civil War documentary that Ken Burns, I think he won an award for that. He probably did. Anyway, but another Ken Burns documentary on the Civil War. Getting into the National Archives to see the traditional documents, the original Bill of Rights, the original Constitution, the Independence, the Declaration of Independence. No lines, no waiting in lines, because we get there before it opens. Up in New England, we have, I think, 6 different itineraries. Can't beat New England. Like I said, I'm a little partial to it.
It's beautiful up there. It's stunningly beautiful, and you don't expect it when you get there. I know I lived in Boston for 3 or 4 years, and I kind of fell in love with New England, the upper New England coastline. It was kind of the quaint little towns and all that fun stuff that's up there.
Yeah, especially I'm in Florida, so I have flat roads, not winding country roads, not hills, not different kinds of trees. I don't know. There's just an ambiance about New England, and you can go from one place to the next in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
The Cape Cod itinerary has 600 miles of driving in a week, and it's never a long day. I love this itinerary. Why? Because a lot of companies, when they stay, they do a Cape Cod tour, they'll stay either in Falmouth,
Mm-hmm.
or Hyannis, because that's where most of the hotels are. Oops, I'm going back again. And, we stay on Martha's Vineyard. Why? Because we want to see it. We want to have enough time there because it's special, because they don't have a Starbucks there. They don't have any franchises, and it's very local. And really, most of the places to stay are bed and breakfast or inn. So there aren't many hotels that can accommodate a big group, or a group of, say, 35 guests like we have. So this is what most of the companies will do. Stay in Falmouth or Hyannis, they'll go to the Vineyard, then they'll go back and sleep. Then they'll go to Nantucket. That's a long ferry ride, you can imagine. Then they'll go back and sleep, and how much time do they get in the destination? We'd rather spend more time in the destination. So that's what we do. We've had a relationship with this hotel, the Harborview in Edgartown, I'm going to say for probably 4 or 5 decades. And you sit right here on this balcony, and you have this view of Edgartown Light right here. You truly feel like you're on Cape Cod. And day 3, when we leave here, instead of taking the ferry back to the mainland, we charter planes, small planes, and we fly over to Nantucket, and we spend the day on Nantucket. Then we take a high-speed ferry back to the mainland, to Chatham. And we go up to the National Seashore. We have a great lobster. We have to have a lobster bake. It's necessary, but it's really a great opportunity to see that area. Lastly, I wanted to touch on a little bit more on our Bridges program, so our family programs. And we have about 20 different family itineraries, connecting families, 3 generations, parents, grandparents, and kids. Every single trip has all 3 generations. A few years ago, I took my eldest nephew on a Bridges trip. He was graduating high school, and I was trying to figure out what I could get him for a gift. And he lives in Massachusetts. I called him up. I said, Daniel, would you go on a trip with me? Sure, Aunt Jennifer. So we booked this Canadian Rockies trip, the family trip. We could have easily done one of our classic trips because, like I said, he was graduating high school. He was 18. He turned 18 on the last day of the trip. And I realized that if we did this, it was a little bit more active. We got to do all kinds of cool things. We had a cookout in Jasper. So that was really fun. We got to see all kinds of animals. We got the fun card at the Jasper Park Lodge. So we got to go out on kayaks. We got to play tennis. Everything was included. We did a lot of guided hikes. This is one of them right here. Day 2, he told me it was the most beautiful place he'd ever been. And we were trying out all the different restaurants in the hotels. He was ordering venison and bison and all kinds of things that he's not getting served in Marlborough, Massachusetts, I can tell you that. We had such a great time that it was really fun. We took my brother and my mom too. And it was just one of those memories. So this kid who's now in his 20s, late 20s, he's like the first one that says, "Hey, Aunt Jen, do you need a ride when I fly up there?" You know, it really was a way for us to connect because I don't live close to him and I never did when he was growing up. So to have that time together, it was really a special time. Nothing else to think about. It was really something else. One of the days we got to go out whitewater rafting. I think Daniel thought, wow, how cool is my grandmom? She just became the favorite grandparent of all my grandparents because she went whitewater rafting. I don't know if you can tell how much fun she's having in that picture.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the memories. One of the taglines I use is "Make memories that can't be lost, stolen, or forgotten." So
it's so true. It's so true. And then this one, I took my other 2 nephews on a Bridges trip 2 years ago, the last trip we did, the Bridges trip. And I took this picture on day 4. These kids did not know each other before that. This one did and this one did because they're my nephews, they're brothers. But the other kids did not. Do you think they had a good time?
Looks like they were hanging out.
That's it. If they're having a good time, we're having a good time. And that window's so short when those kids are young. I can't encourage that enough. You know, I have the best memories from those trips, and I know those kids do too. So I want to thank you all very much. I wanted to offer you something too. Tauck never discounts, but if you go see Jeff, give Jeff a call and book a trip within the next month, we will offer you a complimentary night, which will be the first hotel or the last hotel.
Okay. So thank you very much. That was very educational and learning. I had a few questions that popped up as you were going along. What's the size of your average group?
Average size on a land tour is 38. Some people might say, "Ooh, that sounds like it's pretty big." It might sound, well, I mean, this was before COVID, right? Yeah. This is before COVID.
Life's going to change. We get that.
Lots will change, but it was 38. And it never felt like too big of a group to me when I was a tour guide because we had local guides in so many places. We'd split the group into 2 and it would be easy when we went sightseeing. Because dinner is dine when you'd like to, order what you'd like to eat most of the time. People weren't, you know, shoveled into a function room and had dinner in front of them. They had a dinner for 2 or a dinner for 4. If they met people they liked, they could have a big table. It was up to them.
Awesome. And then your small group tours are 25?
Yeah, 26 max. 24 is the average. Yeah.
And what's demographics? I mean, I know you do the generational, but on a typical tour, demographics?
It all depends. In North America, I would say probably 60, probably. The longer the trip, the older the demographic, of course. You know, people are retired, they have more time. The kids are not at home, they're not paying for college. So, yeah.
So, I don't really have any other questions. I think that was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate your time today, and thank you for the great offer. I will put this out and try to push it a little bit. Do you have any last minute comments?
No, I'm just thankful for everybody spending their time with me today. And if you have any questions, please ask Jeff and he can get them from me.
Yeah, so just to wrap up, we didn't talk about food quality, but if you're a 5 star hotel and most of what we're going to stay in are going to be 5 star or 4 or 5 star, food quality is going to be excellent. That's part of the qualification of being a 4 or 5 star property. You're going to have a quaint property. I'll give you an example for those that are familiar with Disney. The reason the Grand Floridian cannot get 5 star is because the monorail runs through and they feel it takes away from the ambiance. So they look at every detail to give that 5 star rating. So you can book Talk with confidence that you're going to have high end, high quality tours. So that's about all I have for today. So thank you everybody for joining us. This is Jeff Page with Cruise Planners and J Page Travel Talks, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.